Hello there. Now, I did say in the history of propaganda that I was going to review and talk about The Handmaid's Tale, the TV series, but frankly, I got burned out. It drags on. I found that production to be um, lost its value after a while, quite frankly. And most of The Handmaid's Tale can be understood in the movie, and they took a lot from the movies themselves, and then just expanded it into this TV series. And there really isn't much more material uh, after the maidens stage of rebellion. And that's the unfortunate part with that series. Now, I've been anticipating the release of Fallout, and I'll correlate it to the Handmaid's Tale, because the Handmaid's Tale is about depopulation, and obviously there's religious connotations to apocalypse and annihilation and Armageddon. And Armageddon is a place. In Syria, I think. Now, since I just got these pants, right? I just got these yesterday, and I very much enjoy them. They're comforting to me. They are. Um, it's amazing how little things can cheer you up. So it's like I'm putting on my Vault Dweller suit here, prepared for anything. Now, well, that's cool. So we got the boot loop here, so she don't ride up. And of course, this is easy access, just in case your legs get blown off by a toe popper in the Ukraine. Just there you go. Take the knife. There goes the laces. Pull the shoe off. Pitter patter. Have at her. There's it is always, what am I going to say here, is that there's always an effort to experiment and make the world better, by intervening or setting up these safeguards, like the vaults themselves, or say like a sperm bank and an ovum bank, which we have here in London, because this is a medical community, probably one of the largest IVF refrigeration units in the country, especially considering that UWO is so close in proximity and has a research hospital on its campus. So, I tried to get into this again earlier with Soldiers in the Jab, but and I've been referencing all the material that WHO has and is releasing, the same with the UN and any other official source. So it was an insult, it was a slap across the face to have that strike against me, when I was talking about experimentation on soldiers and how that's unethical. And in the same scenario with the Vault Dwellers, if you've played Fallout, Vault-Tec on the surface appears to be, at least it's marketed as a friendly guardian of the culture, and yet, behind closed doors, the overseers were responsible for conducting and continuing these experiments, these human experiments, either psychological, genetic, or otherwise, behavioral. And what I'm trying to get at here is that, well, there was because the Canadian Forces was threatening people with discharge, if I remember correctly, for not taking the vaccine. And they were also conducting one of the largest psychological warfare campaigns against the Canadian public in order to persuade people to take the vaccine, which was a huge boon for the producers of the vaccine. In the same way that the fees, the payments for having a spot inside of a vault is extremely profitable. You think about the underground bunkers and that are made by rich people and their panic rooms and so on and so forth, and how they in themselves become prisons. I would not want to be stuck in a panic room for an extended period of time. That sounds like a nightmare. But that's coming from a guy who's experienced claustrophobia before and almost died in an aircraft, inside of a wing, because I was not educated and there wasn't another person there, right? So that falls into the baker's dirty dozen. And here's the thing, is that most people are not evil. They don't start out as evil, but the banality of it is what leads to situations where you have genetic experiments going on without the true informed consent, which is a problem, right? Because under the DEP and under the Defense Act, that people within the military on Canadian soil are employees and therefore have the same right under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms as any other Canadian that is an employee to a company, which means you can refuse without dismissal. And any other disciplinary action against an unlawful order, which that would have been, is against the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. In the same way that these vaults, each one of them had their own charter, had their own rules, had their own ethical dilemmas, and their means of are ways of making decisions. But the problem is that once you get out into the real world, these rules don't really apply because it's a jungle out there. And people don't give a shit. Generally, most people don't give a shit about the laws, or they're not educated enough to understand them. Because knowledge is not understanding, and understanding is not knowledge. You see the balance of the scale here, right? That leads to a result, right? Or in an accident, the human factors that lead to an incident. And I've been trying to educate people about this in my everyday life. Because of the logical fallacies that arise and are signals, they're lightning rods for vigilantism, subjectivity, and outright corruption and manipulation. And as I've said before in other parts of the history propaganda, if not my efforts throughout my culture jamming, we'll call it that, which I may or may not have been, because trying to get the help of large corporations and something that is as virtuous and noble as suicide prevention, and to inform people of their legal rights and what they can and they can't do within Canada, is apparently, it goes against the grain, right? It goes against everything that these people that use predatory capitalism to predate on people that are naive and are altruistic and are extremely trustworthy and honest and loyal. And all of these things lead you to be corrupted because the corporation doesn't give a shit, right? And the narcissistic psychopath within all of us, and that also includes those of us who are on mood stabilizing medications. That's not me. I prefer marijuana, honestly. I prefer and some nice beer or whiskey because I'm fucking Irish, right? Fucking hate me if you want to. Anyways. And I decided this morning, it was time. It was time to take the band off. Because I'm not in the mental hospital anymore, right? I'm not a young man anymore. I'm not a cadet anymore, right? I'm not a Boy Scout anymore. Well, these things are my roots, and I've traced my roots back up to where the canopy is here, with that which is light-seeking, right? The illumination, which is not demonic, and it is not Luciferian. The only thing that the purpose of Lucifer within these texts is to bring light to the situation so that you learn something. But learning something is in conflict with the Garden of Eden that happens to be within the mind. right? Once you learn the truth, once you know it and know something's going on, then you have to leave the Garden of Eden and this peaceful place and do something about it in order to maintain that sanctuary. And that's one of the conflicts that arises in Fallout. Obviously, it's this immediate immediate violence, right, of the world of the Jungle Book, the world of the Jungle Book, right, of Rudyard Kipling, and that which is the past and is brutal and violent, and the modern and the contemporary, which isolates us from death, and all of these things that afford us, or say that have been afforded to us because of the sacrifices of other people. And so this is why I am so angry, because of the missteps, the corruption, the incompetence, and then the vigilante mob justice that has been going after, the male leadership within the society in order to allow a new wave, a new era of power centralization somewhere else in the world, but they wouldn't know what to do with it in the first place. And that correlates back to the white man's burden, which is, the people in power happen to be rather smart. It's not an insult to other people to say that, but it is a realization, a rationalization as to why people from Europe have dominated the world sphere for so long. Is because we had to adapt, we had to overcome, right? You don't survive winter without being smart. It just isn't possible. And nuclear winter is another story entirely. So what was the nuclear winter? What's the fallout of COVID here, right? Is the fact that, well, you can't retaliate. You don't retaliate. You don't kick people out of the country. You give them an incentive, right? Because the fallout of immigration is again an immediate and violent impression here between different cultures in the struggle to survive. Because we have all these resources that other people find desirable, but the rest of the world wants to tear us down and bring us back down to the level of rodents, right? It doesn't matter how smart you are, right? They seem, we can re-educate them. But here's the thing: is that some people are just feral. They don't have a very high IQ, and this conflict and with of reality versus the altruistic. We are all created equal, which is complete and utter bullshit. And even Samuel Colt knew that. That's why he made the fucking gun. That's why he made the Colt Peacemaker. Blessed is the peacemaker, right? How do you have peace? Through threat deterrence. Simple as that. So where am I going with this? Well, it's easy to be threatening when you don't know everything. So how do we get this Garden of Eden back? Right? Since I'm putting this in the 5th volume, and anyone who watches this fully is at least knows a little bit of the legal conflict that I'm in right now, because of intervention that went wrong, and because of mob vigilantism. Right? It's one person versus 4 people, including my wife. Okay. My common law wife. 4 people, 5, 6, even more than that. The truth will set you free, but it will also burden you with guilt for not having done something sooner. There's always something more in the background. So trying to trace back the event to the root cause. Is the modus operandi. because everything is interconnected, especially in the post-internet epoch, right? And again, if we're going to recap the fifth volume like this, and it's not just television anymore because of how things are communicated, and we can misinterpret the message very easily. So don't misinterpret these words. Don't try to fill in the blanks. Don't try to extrapolate what I may or may not be saying, because that's what leads to confrontation with reality, right? The cognitive dissonance, when you no longer recognize a threat for what it is, and because you're naive, you've been inside this box for so long, and you were brought up in this box, right? Just like the vault dwellers, and that's a problem, right? That's a weakness, and it takes a cowboy, a ghoul, poisoned survivor cowboy with an explosive handgun to teach people a lesson, right? Is we always need people like that, and we almost wipe them all out. The most creative, the most intelligent, the hardiest of us, because stupid people in front of the controls actually wanted a Handmaid's Tale. Because of eugenics and of course preserving bloodlines and stuff like that, or cultural superiority, otherwise known as racism. But everybody's territorial, everybody's racist, everybody's religious, everybody's violent. Oh, there you are, you little killer. So again, what's the point of this video? There's always blowback, there's always fallout, and we're left picking up the pieces after we leave the Garden of Eden. I like Fallout, I do. You should watch it if you have Amazon.